Welcome to the Michael Singer podcast, presented by Sounds True, in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information about Michael Singer's work, access to all prior episodes, and information about upcoming releases, we invite you to join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com.
Jai Gurudev, Jai Masters. There's some very basic understandings that can help tremendously throughout your entire growth. First is the word consciousness. There are scientists today, they have no evidence, they just postulate that consciousness is just a very, 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 very complicated cluster of neurons. They get there by seeing that that's what their brain is. Neural pathways, neurons tied together, and they can watch different parts of the brain behave in different ways based upon probing, based on whatever. MRIs, they can do all kinds of tests. And their consciousness is seeing that. They don't really contemplate consciousness, even though they are conscious, obviously. But then they write the physiological theory that if you get complicated enough, all of a sudden those cells together become consciousness. That's what consciousness is. Well, it isn't that. How do you know? Because only one person knows what consciousness really is, and that's you. Because you're conscious. It's not a theory. Are you conscious? How do you know? Shut up. I just know. I wouldn't have heard the question if I wasn't conscious. Okay? There's something in here that is aware that it's in there. And it's aware that there are thoughts. It's aware that there are emotions. It's aware that it receives the signals from the body. It's aware that things come in through the senses. If you weren't in there, you wouldn't know any of that. You simply wouldn't be there. Okay? So consciousness is the most important aspect of your being. If you were blind, you would know that you don't see. You could still have thoughts. You could still have feelings, so on. But if I took away your thoughts, your emotions, your senses, guess what? You're still going to be there. You just will not be receiving any signals, either from your mind or from your heart or from your body. But you're not going anywhere. You're conscious. I won't use the example of spiritual out-of-the-body experiences, near-death experiences, because they don't want to hear about that. But people do have out-of-the-body experiences. I don't know if you ever had, but people have. That's something so special. Don't make it important. But people do travel and then see things that they never saw before and so on, right? And there are lots of evidence on near-death experiences. You can look it up yourself, where a child, a 10-year-old child is lying on an operating table having, they're on the verge of death. They're going flatline. And there are surgeons all around them, and they've never met the surgeon. They were brought in emergency conditions, and the child had an out-of-body experience or had a near-death experience. And when they came back, they told the people that were asking them that they were aware of what was going on during that surgery, that they were floating on the ceiling, looking down, and they repeated, and of course, what they saw take place. And the part that blew everybody away was the surgeon's shoes were under the operating, not under the table, but under the cloth that hangs down there. So you couldn't see the shoes from above. And the child never saw the shoes. And he described all the shoes, what they were, what type they were, all kinds of stuff. And then the child, who had never been in this hospital before, told what it was like on the 5th floor. He's on the 2nd floor. On the 5th floor, outside, looking in through the window, and described it perfectly. Okay? Now, they don't take notes on that. It's just, okay, right? The point is, you're not your brain. Your brain is like a computer chip that ties consciousness, your mind, we'll go deeper in a moment, but ties your inner being to the physical world. It all comes back, all the messages, the nerve system and all the neurons and all kinds of things are active in that computer, but the computer doesn't know someone's looking at it, but somebody knows they're looking at the computer. It's the end user. Consciousness is the end user. Beyond that, you have these people who meditate. What is real meditation? Real meditation, yes, there's all kinds of techniques. They're all wonderful, and by all means, whatever works for you, work with it. Real meditation is about exploring consciousness, not about the mantras, not about staring at a candle, though that's all part of it. But when you're done with all that, you're in there and you're aware that you're in there. Not you're thinking I'm aware. There are no thoughts. And that's where the great masters try to go, where the yogis go. They're not interested in the thoughts. They're not interested in the emotions. They're not interested in the body healing this and that. They're not interested in what's going on in the outside world. They want to know who experiences that. And by quieting down enough, Patanjali goes through this in the Yoga Sutras, by quieting down enough, you end up in the seat of consciousness. That's what it's called. The seat of consciousness, the place from which you notice your thoughts, from which you notice your emotions, from which you notice your body and the outside world. So we'll get into it more later in a moment. But so consciousness is the essence of spirituality, the exploration of consciousness, but not the way the scientists are doing it. I want to know who's conscious enough to see what you're seeing. That's what I think is hilarious. The only way you know something is to be it. If you've never been to New York, you can philosophize all you want, read all the books you want, step 1 foot in that city, and you know more than all the books that are written, because it is a direct experience. You can directly experience consciousness. Not you can, you do. If I turn off your consciousness, you're not there, right? You're not experiencing anything. People go very deep in meditation. Sometimes they go very deep in meditation. And my favorite is this. They come back and they say, oh my God, I went so deep, there were no thoughts. I went so deep, there were no thoughts. How do you know? Because you're still conscious. You're not conscious of thoughts. You're conscious there was no thoughts. If what you meant by there were no thoughts is your mind was saying, oh, there are no thoughts here, that's a thought. But if you go deep enough, you're just aware of being aware. I am that I am. You're just in there. There are no thoughts coming up. Or if there are, you're not distracted by them. That's the second big word I'm going to use. So understand that consciousness is the beginning and end of the meaning of your life. Why? If you don't have thoughts, you're still there. If you don't have emotions, you're still there. Oh my God, I don't feel any emotions. How do you know? Because I'm here. If I turn off the light of your consciousness, it's over. There's nobody there. Nobody home. Okay? So consciousness is something you get to know more than the scientists know about. I don't care what they study. I don't care what they math equations. I don't care what they cut up. They're not touching consciousness. They're dealing with form. Consciousness is aware of thoughts. It is aware of emotions. You are. Are you not aware of your thoughts? Have you ever said, oh my God, my thoughts are bothering me so much today? Or, wow, I had this beautiful thought. How do you know? How do you know you had that thought? So you that knows it, the knower, the seer, the being, the essence, is different than what you're seeing. It's this question of subject-object. You are the subject, the consciousness, awareness, and every single thing you're aware of is an object of consciousness. If you take away the object, you're still there. I do that in, I think it was the Untethered Soul. If you're in a room and there's a piano and there's people and there's a party and everything going on, there. Are you there? Yes. I'm going to take away the people. Huh? Where'd they go? It doesn't matter. They're gone. Are you still there? Are you aware there's no people in the room anymore? You're exactly as aware as you were while the people were there. It's just what you're aware of has changed. If I then take away all the furniture, so there's just an empty room, are you aware that the room is now empty? Is it the same being who was aware that the room was full, that there were people, that there was noise, that is now aware that it's an empty room? Yes or no? So you didn't change. It changed a lot. You didn't change. Okay? Now I'm going to do an amazing thing. Don't get scared. I'm going to take the room away. I can take the room away. No room. Are you aware that there used to be a room and now you're looking at an empty space? You are the consciousness. If I take you away, it's over. So the most important part of spirituality is understanding that you are consciousness. It's not important what you're conscious of. I mean, yes, I know you care a lot about what you're conscious of, okay? And we'll talk about why. But the reality is consciousness is your soul. It's the essence of your being. If it's not there, you're not there. But if it's there, you're just aware of different things. The second major understanding of spirituality is a word that you don't think is spiritual, but the more you grow, boy, are you going to see it's a very spiritual word. It's called distraction. Why is distraction spiritual? Because if you weren't distracted by the objects of consciousness, you would remain naturally seated in the seat of consciousness. There's nothing pulling you out of the self. I'm here, I'm meditating, and there's a big noise outside. I'm not meditating anymore. My consciousness, which we've talked about, you in there, is distracted by the noise. Are you distracted by thoughts? Are you distracted by emotions? What does that mean to be distracted by? It means when you're not distracted, then nothing is pulling you out of the seat of consciousness. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to do mantra. You don't have to do anything. You are seated in the depth of your being. Why? Because nothing's pulling you out. It's your natural seat. If I'm sitting here, that's where I'm sitting. But if I look at a picture over there and it looks interesting to me, I'm still sitting here, but my consciousness has been distracted by the picture. So it's pulled out. Or if you talk, Yogananda once wrote, and it was in a lesson, something like that, that if you're meditating, you're trying to meditate, the most distracting thing is human talk. Like it wants to know what somebody's saying, all right? And so I'm trying to meditate, somebody's talking, but you're really trying to listen to see what are they saying. So you get distracted by the outside objects, and therefore you don't naturally sit in the seat of your consciousness. That's why I have to talk about consciousness, because everybody's conscious, but nobody thinks about it. They pay no attention to their consciousness. They pay attention to the objects of consciousness. I want a new car, I want a new wife, a new husband, I want a baby, I want to look better. All of these things are things you're conscious of. They're not you. They're things you're conscious of. You're the one who's conscious. But you're so distracted by the objects of consciousness that you have to struggle to try to not be. You have to struggle to try and maintain a center of awareness. But you're always aware, but you're aware of the objects. They distracted your consciousness. Think about a light. A light has its source. The sun has a source. A light bulb has its source. Light has a source. But when it shines out on an object, it is then illuminating that object. So if the light was conscious, it thinks it's the object, which, by the way, is the third one I'm going to use. Stay with distraction. So for some reason, the object distracts you away from your seat of self. There. Okay? And it does, doesn't it? When I talk about outside objects, do your thoughts distract you? Do your emotions distract you? Can you be reading a book and all of a sudden your heart starts hurting or feeling wonderful and you're not reading the book anymore? You got distracted. So objects can draw consciousness onto them, and that is what means to be distracted. When they talk about ADHD, what are they saying? A child or a grown-up, whatever, can't maintain the focus of consciousness on an object long enough to go to school or to do this or to do that, right? It gets distracted. And different people get distracted by different things, and different people are more distracted than others. And some people are so focused on something. Listen to me. Not enlighten them, not focused on the self, right? Meditation is when you're not distracted from the seat of self, but they're so focused, like you watch a football game or some sport, okay? Like Olympics is fine. I'll use the example of football. I don't know if you ever tried running as fast as you can with somebody running next to you, bumping into you, yelling at you, and a ball is thrown, and you have the awareness to focus on hitting it with one finger back to yourself while running full speed and getting hit and catching it. Now, that means you didn't get distracted. Okay? And they do that in Olympics on the bounce beam or something like that. And they're very focused, and they slip, right? Boy, that would distract you. You just gave up 4 years of trying to win a medal, right? They get right back on that thing as if nothing happened. So they've managed to focus their consciousness to where it doesn't get distracted by anything other than what they're doing. you know what I'm saying? You're still distracted. You're distracted by what you're doing. You're not distracted from what you're doing. Please listen to me, right? You get this idea of consciousness and distraction. So when you focus your consciousness one-pointedly, focused, okay, you can do very great things other than being all scattered all over the place. That's what scattered means. I can't maintain the focus of my consciousness. It gets distracted by things, whether they're inner things or outer things. It gets distracted. Okay? All right. So that's two great spiritual words. So great, I don't like to call them words. Consciousness and distraction. That's why you're not enlightened. If you were not, all right, I'll do it. Patanjali wrote a thing called the Yoga Sutras. Maybe you've heard about it. It's considered one of the greatest yoga treatises ever written. And he describes the path of yoga, the path to enlightenment. It's very esoteric and so on. But he starts off by saying, if you can't sit down and detach yourself from your senses, you can't meditate because you're going to get distracted. And so he gave a name. You know, I don't teach this stuff, so just don't pay attention. All right? I probably won't get it right anyways. All right? Of pratyahara. Most of you guys never heard that word, Sanskrit. What does pratyahara mean? The ability to detach from your senses. Detach what? Your consciousness. It's basically saying what I just taught you, that you have the ability to not get distracted by what's coming in through ears, eyes, taste, whatever it is. So that you can be sitting there, it's cold out, or somebody's talking, and you're not. Is your ear working? Yes. Is the eardrum vibrating? Yes. But you're so focused one-pointedly that your consciousness does not get drawn into anything with the senses. That is what pratyahara means, the ability to withdraw from your senses. Most of us can't even do that. Although, as I've taught you before, in case you feel you're not a great yogi or yogini, right? Every single one of you has the ability to practice pratyahara regularly, and you do it every single day when you go to sleep. You do? Do you ever have dreams? Do you have dreams? Well, then are you conscious of your dreams? Do you come back and talk about them? Are you experiencing them? Do you do things in your dreams? Yes or no? All right? Same consciousness is not being distracted by the noise that's going on in the room, by different things with the body, and so on. It withdraws its awareness from the body. You can't fall asleep if it doesn't do that. Can you? Are you listening to me? I'm teaching you the deepest spiritual teaching that could possibly be. I want you to understand you experience these things. It's not paying attention. So you do have the ability to withdraw your consciousness from the senses. You do it every single night. And if you go very deep in meditation, you may find out that you slip into meditation and somebody said, I was talking to you and so on. Did you hear the phone? No, I didn't hear a single thing. So you withdrew the consciousness. I don't like to say you withdrew the consciousness from the senses. I want to say the consciousness did not get distracted by the senses. It's a better way to talk about it. I didn't get distracted. The senses were still there. They're still working. But your awareness did not get pulled down into them. So Patanjali taught that, pratyahara, as the first stage essential for meditation. He said it's not meditation, okay? And then the other is dharana, okay? Now I'm not being distracted by my senses. Can you one-pointedly concentrate so totally on a candle, a thought of a candle or a mantra, something inside, one-pointedly? What does that mean? It means I'm not getting distracted by anything else. You see how powerful consciousness and distraction are already? We're talking about the essence of meditation, the essence of the spiritual path, all right? So when you're able to withdraw from the senses, I mean, your consciousness doesn't get drawn, distracted by the senses. Now, mentally, can you one-pointedly focus on a candle burning or on this or on a mantra, something? I don't care what it is. But the point is, it's so deeply concentrated on that one thing that nothing distracts it from it. No other thoughts that are getting created draw your consciousness off of that one thought. That's dharana, one-pointed concentration. So the first is this. There are great yogis that teach that Patanjali Yoga Sutras are the most esoteric thing that people can't understand them. Now you do. Big words. So pratyahara means you're not being distracted by your senses. Dharana means you're not being distracted from one-pointed focus from your mind. Your mind becomes one-pointed, focused. Nothing inside emotions or thoughts draw your consciousness away from that. See why conscious and distraction are so important? That's all we're talking about, right? Well, what's meditation? Dhyan. What's dhyan? The same thing, not distracted by your senses, now not distracted by anything but the one pointed focus of your mind, okay? What's dhyan? When that one pointed focus focuses on the consciousness itself. It focuses back on the source of consciousness, so that now you're not drawn into senses or into mind, even one pointedly, right? You don't leave the seat of consciousness. That's what true meditation is. That's how Patanjali says meditation is. When the one pointed focus, in a sense, doesn't leave the seat of consciousness. Can you visualize that? The light is now not shining out. It's focused on its bulb itself, on the sun itself, on the source, not on the radiation that came out and hit the earth. The sun has rays go flying out, then they hit objects, then the objects light up, all right? And make believe each ray is conscious. So it gets distracted by the objects it's shining on. So it can't know who it is. It can't look back. It doesn't know it came from the sun because it's too busy being a car. You understand? You see it. So now it's focused on that. It's so distracted by the outside object that it doesn't know its source. Right now it learned to withdraw. So now it knows it's the ray of light that's falling on the car or on whatever. Okay? So now it's one step back. It still doesn't know who it is. It still knows itself as this light coming down. When it doesn't get distracted by the ray, it finds itself where it came from, at the source of the ray. Well, your consciousness is the source of your being. So everything we're talking about, so far we've talked about consciousness, and we've talked about distraction. God, I hope you get it. It's not going to change you now, but once you catch on that this is under your control, I mean, you get to explore who you are. You get to explore the depth of your being. So now, and we'll learn how to do that in a moment, all right? And so you're not distracted. And when you're not distracted, you naturally don't leave the seat of consciousness. If I tell you, focus your consciousness back on yourself, you don't know what to do. You'll create a mental image. I'm focusing it. No, you're not. Right? But if you're not distracted, it doesn't leave. If I'm sitting here and that picture doesn't distract me, and you guys don't distract me, then I'm sitting here. But I'm able to project my consciousness out, aren't I? And get distracted by what you're doing. Okay? And you get distracted by the outside world, by your thoughts and by your emotions. When that ceases to happen, you remain seated in the seat of consciousness. It's called becoming established in the seat of self. What you all mean by mindfulness nowadays or witness consciousness is that your seat, all the way back, all the way back to the source of consciousness, but your consciousness is not being distracted by your thoughts. You're aware of your thoughts. You can know what they are. You can say, boy, I had a really bad thought day. How do you know? I was in here watching. Did you get lost? No. I didn't get so distracted that they drew me into them, but I was aware of them. That's what you all mean by witness consciousness. You all heard of witness consciousness, right? So you're at least aware that you're in there, but there's way higher states. Who's in there? Where'd you come from? Someday you'll be back there far enough to where you'll be able to notice your thoughts. You'll notice your emotions. Now you notice them, but you are them. That's the third most important spiritual concept. Consciousness, distraction, identification. And I can't say that word without almost crying. What does that mean? Well, consciousness is aware. What is distraction? It gets distracted onto an object. So it can't stay seated in the seat of self because it gets distracted by the object. Big deal. Get distracted, come back, get distracted. Okay. No. You can get so distracted for such a period of time that you actually identify with the object you're distracted by. You actually say, I am my thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You're the one who's aware of your thoughts. But if somebody asks you who you are, you say, I'm the person who paid Dorothy in the 3rd grade. I'm the person who's married to Charles. I'm the person who has these 2 little children. You are not. I'm sorry. Those are things you're aware of. You didn't exist before you had the kid. You didn't exist before you got married. You've been in it the whole time. These are experiences you had, but you are so distracted. It's not a bad thing. Just dare to listen objectively, you are so distracted by those objects that you define yourself as them. You don't define yourself as the consciousness that was aware that this thing got pregnant and the baby dropped out. That's my baby. That's my life. That's who I am, the mother of this child. Okay? Well, if that's who you are, in language study, right, this verb to be is a really important verb, defining who you are. In fact, in Spanish, they have two to be's, ser and a star. One is you are this, and the other is, right now you have an experience. But in English, we don't have that. So you say, I'm the father, I'm the mother, I'm this, I'm that. You even say, I'm hungry. Oh, that's who you are, hunger? You know what? You say, I am full. Oh, now you're hungry and you're full. You are the consciousness that is aware that your body is screaming at you, body, object, consciousness, subject, saying, hungry, I'm hungry. So you get so attached to, so distracted by the object that you actually define it as yourself. You identify with it. How's that? And the milder cases, I've used this example all the time, it's a good example. You go into a car showroom to buy a car. You don't have a car. So they ask you, what car is yours? None, I don't have a car. Okay? You bargain with the salesman, doing a thing. You don't want that car. People are sitting in it. People are sitting on it. I think that one, all right? You go back to the room. You sign your little name. You come out. Get off my car. How long did it take? How long did it take before you identify with that car? That's what I'm talking about. When it distracts you enough, this thing happens where consciousness loses so much its sense of self that it identifies with it. And I can't say it's bad because everybody's doing it about everything. Who are you? If I ask you, who are you? I want in detail. Who are you? You don't say the self, the Atman. You sit there and say, I'm the person that had this experience and that experience. And when I was growing up, this happened and that happened. I mean, how much detail you want? Full detail. And then I wore this and then I ripped that and then this happened. And then this guy dumped me and I was hurt. I'm the one who got hurt because so-and-so dumped me. Spell it out for 7,000 pages. And you've just said that you are the experiences you had. Who had the experiences? The consciousness. But because you identify with it, that's who you define yourself as. Psychology has this thing called the ego. Maybe you've heard of it, okay? We talk about he has a big ego. That just means he really identifies with himself so much it's hard to be around him, okay? But everybody has an ego. How does psychology define the ego? The self-concept. Ever heard those words? We let these words get said and we don't even pay attention to how powerful they are. What is your self-concept? It's obviously not you, it's a concept of yourself. What's a concept? A thought. What's your concept of what it would be like to go to Bali? You've never been there. What's your concept? Make it up. Do whatever you want. It's probably green. Sounds like it would be green. It's a concept. They're calling this your self-concept. It's something you made up in your mind about you. And now you're presenting it to people. This is who I am. I won this award. I did this. Yeah, I was embarrassed because I was young and did this. How do you use the word I to define all that? That's why they call it the ego. But it's not who you are. It's what you identified with, this experiences you had and got distracted by sufficiently that you identified with them as you. How'd you identify with them? I teach this all the time. Everything comes and goes. Have you noticed? You don't have to be Buddhist and talk about the temporary nature of things. This moment that just happened isn't here anymore. It's a motion picture, not a snapshot. There's not a single experience you ever had that will ever happen again. Do you understand that? Not the actual experience, exactly as it was. It's only there for the moment that's happening. The atoms that are making up the moment make up the next moment. They don't stay there and make that moment. Okay? So how do you know about it? It's gone. Because you have a mind, which is a wonderful thing if you use it properly, but you don't. Why? What you do is if something distracts you enough, you keep it in your mind when it's gone. You're the most beautiful person I've ever met. Like to me, you walk on water. I never told you, but guess what? When I stop saying that, it does not stop going on inside your mind. Okay? I go, you want to find me again so I can say that again, right? Well, you keep it. You hold on to it in your mind. Or you say something bad, somebody insults you. Guess what? It doesn't go away either. It sure went away. You're not the person standing there saying it for the rest of your life in front of you. It went away, but it didn't go away inside of you, did it? Why? You got distracted by it sufficiently to where you held it inside your mind, and you took these objects that are gone. They're gone. They already happened. And you kept them in your mind, and they distracted you enough that you identified with them. I'm the one he insulted. I'm the one that he said such nice things. Oh my God. That's where your ego comes from. The things you held in the mind because you were distracted by them, either positive or negative, sufficiently to I ain't letting them go. I'll never forget what you said to me. I don't forgive you. In other words, I'm keeping this thing. In fact, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to think about every day of my life what you said to me, and I'm going to suffer, and it's your fault. Congratulations. Do we not do this? Okay, because you got distracted by it. It was strong enough to distract your consciousness enough to where you identified with it as you. It's gone. No, but it's not gone inside of me. And I built an ego. What is an ego? It's a pattern of thoughts that you held in your mind. An ego's a thought. You're not the 5-year-old that played Dorothy in the 5th grade. That's gone so long ago. You're 55 years old. But you held on to that. That's part of my self-confidence. They all clapped. They said I would be an actress. Okay? And 50 years later, you're still identified with it. It became part of your self-concept. I'm the one who did this. And so you built that inside your mind, and you have it going on there all the time, this collection of who you are. That's hilarious. My favorite is this. Where are you going? You're dropping out of school. Why? I need to find myself. Well, look under the bed. Maybe you're there. You are the self. You go find yourself. I have to go to Himalayas or do something. Or you hear me, right? It's because you're so distracted from yourself that you're caught in the ego that says, I don't know who I am. I need to find myself. That's just a self-concept. I don't know who I am, or whatever. I want to get personal. Okay? What do I want to be? What do I want to be when I grow up? How about enlightened? Master called enlightenment self-realization. How about self-realized? You found out who you are, and you're not getting distracted by who you're not. And so you're seated in this beautiful seat of consciousness, and do not think of consciousness as neutral. Consciousness has a nature like everything else does. In the yoga teachings, consciousness's nature is defined as follows. Sat Chit Ananda. What is that? Eternal conscious ecstasy. That's who you are. And you're out here looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend or somebody that will hire you or somebody that will say something nice to you. Your ecstasy, your eternal conscious ecstasy. Now that we've built this, I can use the words. You are eternal conscious ecstasy, distracted by junk and identified with it. I am a sinner. I'm no good. I did something when I was in 5th grade that embarrassed me so much and it defined my whole life. Mazel tov. Congratulations. And that's who I am. It is not who you are. You're the consciousness distracted. I'm going to say it over and over to you. I am the consciousness distracted by objects of consciousness and sometimes identifying with them and defining myself as those objects. Are you those objects? No. You are the consciousness. You're not your body, but you're identified. You're very identified with your body. How? Bodies get old. Look at me. I mean, bodies get old, okay? And you're so identified with what your body looks like now, you don't want it to get old. And you get a gray hair or some wrinkles or like varicose veins or something like this, which bodies do when they get old. But your self-concept says no. So you do every single thing you can to hide it, to not show it. So your self-concept isn't matching reality. It has nothing to do with anything. But you have a self-concept. So those are the 3 words I wanted to talk about, and then we're going to go deeper. Consciousness, distraction, and identification. See how powerful that is? That's why the world is a mess. That's why, imagine all the people living life in peace. Good luck. All right? Why? Because the consciousness is distracted by the objects that it's experiencing. Not every object, but some objects hit it stronger than others. Which ones? The ones that feel good and the ones that feel bad. That's what you get distracted by. Have you noticed? All right? You're so into that when your mind is bothering you because you got distracted from ecstasy, so you could hang out with garbage. Okay? You got so distracted, it's so bad in there that you tried to get distracted from your distractions. Go to a movie, do this, eat food, do that. You're trying to do things that make it feel better so you don't have to hang out with what mess you made inside. Don't you? Yes or no? Come on. What are you doing? You're trying to distract your consciousness. Same consciousness. You're trying to distract the consciousness from its addiction to the thoughts and the emotions, which you built because you got, I love it. I see how powerful the word conscious and distraction are. You're trying to distract yourself from your distractions that you built through the course of your life. Yes or no? Did you not store things inside of you over the course of your life that you got very distracted by, and now they're still in there and they still distract you, even though they happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they bother you? And so now you try to develop patterns and alternatives in your life that, oh, I need a vacation. I need this. I need to go to a movie. I need to do a drug. I need to have a smoke. I need to find somebody. I need to find somebody that dotes over me and distracts me from myself. Yes or no? How would you like to go out on a date and all you're aware of is what your mind is saying all the time and you're just feeling the same thing you felt before you went on a date? Think you'll marry the guy? I don't think so. Now go on a date and have the guy or girl just blow you away. What does that mean, blow you away? It means blow you in there away from the garbage that you were lost in. The movie was so amazing. I sat there for 2 hours and I didn't even know I was in the theater. I didn't even know who I was. I was just completely engulfed in the movie. It was entertaining. What does that mean? It distracted you from yourself. Isn't that neat? Look how powerful. It distracted consciousness from what it was addicted to watching. Its ego, its thought patterns. It distracted your awareness. I'm taking your everyday experience and showing you are yogis and yoginis. You're not paying attention. It's not a matter of right or wrong. Should I go to a movie? Should I do this? I don't know. I don't care. But I want you to pay attention to what's going on. Is it okay if I'm distracted by that? There's no okay or not okay. I don't want to talk about it. Let other people tell you what to do. That's not what yoga's about. Yoga is about waking up the consciousness to return to the seat of self, where it's constant ecstasy all the time. Literally waves upon waves of joy, of love, of peace, of inspiration, always going on inside. It will never stop. It has never stopped from the beginning of time. That's what the Bible was trying to talk about when they were in the Garden of Eden. It was just God, just filled with joy and ecstasy. So they experienced walking around the garden, but they weren't distracted by it. They didn't define themselves as it. And the fall from the garden is when they ate of the tree of self-knowledge. They identified with their bodies. They identified with themselves. And now they have to work with the sweat of their brow to be okay, which you're doing every single day of your life. You're trying to work with the sweat of your brow to be okay, aren't you? What do I want to do? How can I find somebody? I need a relationship. I need to do things. I want people to respect me. Oh, boy. In other words, I ain't doing okay. So I need to be distracted by things that make me feel better. And then identify with them. And that's the worst. That's the end, man. Now, how do you get out? Watch. I'm ecstasy, but I'm distracted by things that happened to me over the course of my life. So now what I'm distracted by is depression. What is depression? There's this low energy feel. There's no juice because I'm pure ecstasy, but I'm distracted from it by this junk that I stored inside of me. So there I am. And if you ask the doctor, how are you doing? You know what you say? You say, I am depressed. You have just defined yourself as what you're looking at. I am that. That's what you are? No. The psyche is depressed. It's depressed energy. It's low energy. And I'm staring at it. And I don't know how to get out. But I'm not depression. I'm the same consciousness that felt love 3 days ago before she left me. But I was happy. I defined myself as happy. Now I'm defining myself as sad. I'm sad. I was, oh my God, what a misuse of the verb to be. You have the right to say, oh, doctor, I am experiencing depression. There we go. Now I have a subject, a verb, and an object, but not I am depressed. We're just addicted. Oh my God, it's worse than drugs. Okay? And so basically, that's what's going on. And so you're caught in this identification with your ego. It's something you defined in your mind. And now you have to go out there and make the world behave to where when it comes into you, it fits within your self-concept. People treat you the way you want to be treated. They see you the way you want to be seen. And you do every single thing you can to make it so the world coming in matches the concepts you built inside your mind. This is how I want to be looked at. And what happens if somebody says, no, you're not. That's not your child. That's her child. You stole it. You freak. You freak. You know what you say is, thank you, goodbye. What's the difference what they say? You know it's your child. They had the child. But you can't handle it. Somebody say that. That's showing you the depth of identification with what you're not. So now, obviously, if I'm distracted from the highest thing that could possibly exist, which is you, you're the most beautiful being that walked the face of the earth. Okay? And I didn't get struck by lightning. Why? Because Christ said that to you. I'm a nice Jewish yogi, and I love Christ's teachings. What did he say? As I sit at the throne of my Father, that's a state of consciousness. I'm with God. As my consciousness is one with God, merged with God, that's the throne. As I sit by the throne of my Father, so you shall sit by my throne. And these things that I do, you should do these and even greater things. It's telling you you're the same as him. You're the great being. You're pure consciousness. You're one with God. That's what he said. Did he not say, my Father and I are one? And they said, you sit by my side? That's who you are. But you don't know that. Why? Because you're distracted by your psyche. You're distracted by your thoughts. You're distracted by your emotions. You're distracted by your body. You're distracted by everybody else. You're pretty distracted. I'm a distracted dude. Yes or no? How distracted are you? Every single minute of your life, you are distracted away from yourself, which happens to be pure ecstasy. Don't ever think you're not happy. Don't think you're not good. Don't think you did something bad. You can't be okay. If a light shines on something and then something's beautiful, does it make the light beautiful? If I shift the light over and it shines on something disgustingly ugly, does it make the light ugly? If I shift the light over on something just freshly built, new, all right, does it make the light new? If I shift the light over to a broken down old object just falling apart, did that affect the light? You are the consciousness, not the object of consciousness. There's nothing you ever did, nothing you will ever do that will take away from you who you are. Your pure consciousness descended and unfortunately got lost in staring at the objects of consciousness. And that's the only problem you have. You don't have any other problem. If you were to stop doing that, which is not so easy, that's what the entire path is about. If you were to stop doing that, you would be in a state of absolute joy. And every person in the world would want to be with you. Who doesn't want to be with someone who's emanating light all the time? Okay? Okay? The trouble is you're not seated. Your consciousness has been distracted by you, by this ego. All right? And now that it's not comfortable, you have to go out there and try to get the world to behave in a way that matches your distractions. You're distracted by tall men that do this and speak that and so on. And she can't stand that kind of, like shorter men. So you're all distracted by different things. Now, I just said to you, that's why the world is the way it is. Why is the world the way it is? From a yogic, deep point of view. Why is there all this war? Why is all this hatred? Why is there all this violence? Why is all this, oh my God, why is it the way it is? Because every single one of you had different experiences. No one has the same experiences. So as you go through the pattern of your life, you have experiences. No one had those experiences. And they certainly didn't have the sequence of experiences that you had. No one ever, and never will. So you developed a self-concept based upon the experiences you had. That determines what you like and what you don't like, what you think is good, what you think is bad, what you think is good. Somebody judges you, oh my God, how could you do that? It's all based upon the programming that you collected within yourself due to your being distracted by different things. You can't have in there something you never experienced because you didn't get distracted by it. If you're reading a book, that's still seeing it, or a movie, no. But if you never had exposure to it at all, you're not distracted by it. It's not part of your self-concept. If you never saw a snake ever in your entire life, never heard of it, never saw it, there's nothing in your self-concept about snakes. That's true of everything. If you dated a blonde or a redhead, male or female, in junior high school and they dumped you, you don't like blondes or redheads. You don't trust them. I've had personal experience. Don't tell me. I have personally seen what they're like. You do literally do that. Do you understand that? Kind of funny, isn't it? So you're distracted by this. You build the concepts, and every one of you have different concepts. Every single person has a different self-concept. I told you, if you're married to somebody, they say, oh, I'm just like you. They are not. They cannot be, and they are not. So now we go out there, And we have these issues. What? The issues that distract us from the seat of ecstasy. I don't want to call it the seat of self anymore. I will, but I don't want to. I want to distract ourselves from pure ecstasy. We distract ourselves from pure ecstasy so we can become identified with what we collected over the course of our lives, so we can go outside and try to manipulate the world so that we can feel a little ecstasy. And now you don't use the word ecstasy, you feel better. But net result is everybody has a different self-concept. Everybody has different likes and dislikes because it was all molded based on their experiences. So now there's only one world out there, and we're going to compete, aren't we? You have to compete. You have to struggle. You have to work with the sweat of your brow to try and make the moments unfolding in front of you match what you want. If they match, you're happy. If they don't, you're freaked out. And everybody's different. So let's go to war. So basically, it's because we are identified with ourselves, and ourselves are not okay, and therefore we go out and try to manipulate the world and everybody in it to make it be the way we want, and therefore don't really get along. You can make believe you do, right? Stay together for the kids or something. Love is real. You can have love, but don't you dare for 1 second think that person is the same as you. I don't care how much you love them. I don't care how deep it is. I don't care how committed they are. They are not the same as you. They are way back there. If you're both back there, man, come visit me. I want to meet you. But otherwise, she got her stuff and you got your stuff. And yes, we can try to be nice to each other, which is very good. By all means, do that. But don't all of a sudden, if he or she does something that you didn't expect, don't say, how could you do that? I would never have done that. That's right. You wouldn't have, and they did, because you had different experiences than they did, and they were suppressing theirs. And all of a sudden, something happened. Come on, nobody's had such experiences, right? So doesn't mean you don't have relationships. You have relationships, but you don't kid yourself to think that anyone is the same as you, because they're not. They are at the deepest level, right? But otherwise, no. They've had different experiences, and therefore they were molded differently. They got distracted by different things. Okay? So what does one do to live in this world and have a beautiful life all the time, every day, all the time? What does one do? They understand what we just talked about. The problem is not the world. The problem is that you've been distracted from the seat of self. And the only time you really feel wholeness is when you touch that spot. You've touched the spot. Intimate moments, a beautiful sunset, music can take you away, can't it? I've been teaching you lately, I'm sorry. You say things like, oh my God, it touched me through the depth of my being. Anybody ever touched you to the depth of your being? Can you ever felt that it touched you to the depth of your being? A beautiful sunset or a music piece that you went by and you just felt whole, because, right? That's because it distracted you from your distractions. It pulled you back. So you're no longer distracted. It moved you so deeply that you touched your deeper part of your being, and you felt love, and you felt joy, and you felt ecstasy and inspiration. It's there all the time. So what does one do? They understand the concept of distraction. They understand the concept of identification. And you can't start with distraction, because then you're suppressing. It shouldn't be a struggle. That's why I teach you the way I'm teaching you. It's everything we talked about so far. You have to memorize it, do you? You have to take notes. You are it. They say spirituality doesn't get learned, it gets realized. Every single one of you know that every single word I've said so far, you live it every day of your life. So now what do you do about it? If you start with, I'm going to know the self, no, you're not. You're being too distracted. And you just fight and struggle. And no, that's not an answer. Okay? I'm going to shut my mind up. No, you're not. It's not a healthy thing to do. There's a reason your mind talks, because you store all this garbage in here and it's trying to release it and express itself, and suppressing it doesn't work. All right? So what do? First, start, I said to you, consciousness, distraction, identification. Start letting go of what you're identified with. Not renouncing. It is not your car. It is not your car. You didn't make it. You don't know how to make it. It's an object on the planet Earth that you're aware of and you get to hang out with. And little by little, I used to start with teaching you things like, start with the weather. Why is that the rain on my birthday? It didn't rain for 2 weeks. Why is it raining on my birthday? Do you know how absurd that statement is? It is not raining on your birthday. It doesn't know it's your birthday. But you identify with the weather. You identify so much with the eye that the weather should be the way you want it to be. No, it shouldn't. It should be the way it is. Why? Because there's forces that made it be that way. El Nino, La Nina, and there's just all kinds of things going on that caused the weather to be this way this day. It's not personal, is it? But you took it personal, didn't you? Why does it have to rain on my birthday? So you start working at that level, this level of identifying with things that have nothing to do with you. The weather has nothing to do with you, all right? Believe it or not, what somebody else says or does, it's because they ate pizza the other night that made them sick. Their father died before they talked to you. They have a history of this, all kinds of people looking like you that they freaked out because your eyes were brown. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them. Do you understand that if a person likes you or not, it has nothing to do with you? It has to do with them. They are feeling something in your presence. People do not like or not like you. They like or don't like what they're feeling. And what they're feeling has very little to do with you. Yes, maybe you said something just right now that hit them the wrong way because for 30 years, they stored all this garbage inside themselves and you just touched something that you shouldn't have touched with them. That's not you. That's them. God, if you learn nothing else from this talk, stop caring whether people like you or not. Because you're really finding out whether they like themselves in your presence. You're just there. You're something that's there. They don't like the weather, or they like the weather. They like you. Don't like. It's the same thing. It depends on what they're feeling inside themselves based upon their experience, their self-concept, their psyche, what they built inside themselves. So you just get to the point where you say, that is the beginning of your work of your spirituality, is on your ego. Your ego is what you identify with. How about we thin it out a little bit? You identify with things and you project your sense of self onto the weather and onto what people say and onto the car in front of you. Why does he have to drive like that? Doesn't he know I'm in a rush? Have you ever talked to the driver in front of you? Which one of you? Don't raise your hand. Have you ever talked to the driver in front of you? Every single one of you talk to the driver in front of you. They don't hear you. I'm telling you, this is how simple spirituality is. Start in the solid, simple ground of stop being absurd. Stop bothering yourself. Remember I told you, Oprah picked out of my new book, Living Untethered. She said the most important line that she read was, the moment in front of you is not bothering you. You're bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. The driver in front of you is not bothering you. It's a driver in front of you on the planet Earth. But you're bothering yourself about it, right? Come on, where's your blinker? Nice blinker, buddy. Why you keep stepping on your brakes? You have your 15 miles on the speed limit. Don't you see? What are you doing? Bothering myself. You know how much you do that with? Why? Because you identify with your ego. I identify, I'm in a rush. But doesn't he know I'm in a rush? People say, right? Why do I keep getting the lights? I'm in a rush. It has nothing to do with you, but you make it have to do with you because you're identifying with it. You're identifying with your concepts and views and opinions. Start thinning out. How? When it says next time, why does it have to rain on my birthday? Say what I said to you. Say to it, hello in there. Hi. It doesn't know it's your birthday. Have fun. All right? Oh, it's so hot. I gave you that one. I do it all the time. It's so hot. Oh my God, I can't handle it hot. All right? I did this back in 73, 72. I did it to Mickey. All right? Mickey, why is it hot? Well, the sun is hot. What is the sun, Mickey? It's a star. Holy mackerel. Those little twinkle little things out there that you look at? It's one of those. But you're close enough to it to feel its heat. It's pretty neat, isn't it? Okay, all of a sudden, you stop bothering yourself about it. You start being blown away by it. 93 million miles away, and it's so hot, you're complaining about the heat? Mommy's 360 miles away. Set it on fire. You won't feel a thing up here. Use your mind to help liberate yourself. And you start doing that with everything. And next thing you know, the ego starts to fall off. You start to be okay with the heat. You start to be okay with the driver in front of you. You start to be okay with the fact that it's raining on your birthday. You think it's funny. It's funny that you used to complain about that. You start having fun. And the next thing you know, you're not distracted by the things. Remember, I said consciousness, distraction, identification. You start letting go of identification. You won't be as distracted by things because you don't pull down. And the next thing you know, you're going to find out that you're not as distracted because you're okay. If you're okay with the traffic, you're not distracted by it. You're not distracted with, new mantras or listen to the radio, have fun. And next thing you know, you're doing better. And next thing you know, you're not distracted. And I'm telling you, the natural state, I wish people understand, the natural state is as you liberate yourself, as you work to liberate yourself, not to find the self, okay? You liberate yourself from distraction, identification. you will start to feel the joy. You'll start to realize you're naturally being drifted back toward the seat of self. Why? Because you're the one who left. I tell people, no, it's not about use it to go to God. Go back to God. No, stop leaving. Stop leaving, not go back. Is there a difference? So you little by little let go of what is distracting and pulling and identifying, and you start to thin out. And next thing you know, you're going to find yourself sitting in a very beautiful place. And I'll close it by telling you, I told you, that beautiful place, witness consciousness. You can now handle the world. I see it. I see the tendencies. I can let them go, etc. Now what? You will get to a point when you're established in that seat. No effort. There is effort. I don't mean it, but it'd be really nice if you let go enough to where it's not effort. You just find yourself there because you don't leave. And then something will awake inside of you, not the mind, that will just intuitively question, where did I come from? Yes, I'm seated here and I'm watching all this stuff down there. Who am I? Where did I come from? What's the source of consciousness? That should make you cry. The source of consciousness is the most beautiful thing that could ever be. In fact, you have a name for it. Oh, God. Yes, every master of any tradition who found themselves back to that seat and let go so they got pulled back up said the same thing. My father and I are one. Buddha said it. Christ said it. Great saints of all saint times and beginning, right, have merged back into the seat of consciousness, which every consciousness is the same. It's just consciousness. That's all there is. All right. Work on these things. Jagged.
You've been listening to the Michael Singer Podcast, produced by Sounds True in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information on Michael's body of work and all back episodes, please join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening. Sounds True, waking up the world.